The following program is wholly sponsored and produced by Stu Taylor on Business, which is responsible for its content. The opinions and information provided on today's show are those of the guests and or their respective companies and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of this station. It is strongly recommended that all listeners conduct their own due diligence on all companies mentioned and or seek out the advice and counsel of a financial professional. The guests on this show may pay a fee to appear on the show and are not affiliated with the show in any manner. This is Stu Taylor on Business. Now, Stu Taylor.
All right, good morning. Good morning. I've got two quick announcements to make because this will be the last time I'll make these announcements. It's based on my schedule, my itinerary, but I know you're gonna want to jump on this and do it. For the sixth straight year, I'll be at the Franklin Trust Farm and Garden Tour in central and western Massachusetts. It is a phenomenal take. Go ahead, just Google it, Franklin Trust Farm and Garden Tour. You're going to love it. Saturday and Sunday. And then Tuesday night, I will be at the Sports Museum at TD Bank North for the 10th anniversary here. The tribute is to former Red Sox player Mike Lowell, Larry Bird, of course, who needs no introduction, and two friends of mine who, when I was in the world of sports, had a pretty good friendship with the fighter, Mickey Ward, and Ty Law, the now NFL retired player for the Patriots and the Jets in Kansas City. And that's Tuesday night, so you can go to the Sports Museum to get the tickets. And we open up here. You know, I talk about value. We got a great value story for you here this morning as we open up. I am absolutely thrilled to have Yale Simpson. He is the chairman of Exeter Resource Corporation, and this is really an exciting story. He's also a geologist and with an extensive background. He said it, so I'll say it, with almost 40 years in the business. And he's working with a company called Exeter Resource Corporation. The website is exeterresource.com. This is traded on the Frankfurt Exchange. It's traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Got that right, didn't I, Yale? And on the and on the Amex, I've been rehearsing it for days. On the Amex, the symbol is XRA. Take a look at this. Go to exeterresource.com. You know, it's quite a story. And here to join us, Yale Simpson. Yale, it's so nice to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be on your show again.
Well, it is great to be here, and I guess maybe we should open up when I talked about, and I used the key word value here. So why don't you just give an overview of the company and relate it to how these companies are valued?
Just big picture, we're a Canadian-based company. We operate in Chile. We have one major asset. We are in the mining space. We're not yet a producer. We are an explorer developer, if you like. Just value about $400 million, market capitalization, over $80 million in the treasury. We have a large staff of industry professionals, and the asset of the company is a very large gold copper discovery, what's called a porphyry in Chile, where we've invested approximately $55 million and found a very large gold deposit with copper, one that you'd call world class. It's in excess of 21 million ounces of gold in the measured and indicated categories. It's a very large discovery, and that accounts for our market capitalization.
And, you know, when you talk about your company and you look at a lot of the major companies coming along and buying juniors, how does that process work? Because down the road, that may be the case with you in terms of how they pay for them.
Well, two pieces to it. One is, why do major companies team up with juniors or take over juniors? And we see it in the tech space. We see it everywhere. Is because they can't grow enough organically to really maintain a business plan. And also the juniors are very innovative, and that's certainly in the technology business. So we've been very innovative. We have a major discovery. The big companies merge with the juniors every day, especially in the mining space, because when you look at things, you can always invent another widget if you like, but you can't invent another copper deposit. There's fewer and fewer of them on the surface of the earth, and they're harder and harder to find. So when it comes to a company, a major company, what do they typically pay for an ounce of gold in the ground? In other words, they're buying the resource in the ground, they're buying the deposit, and then looking at developing it from there, building the mine, getting the trucks. So there's a very different business between finding it and developing it. And typically the major companies pay about $60 for an ounce of gold in the ground. Now, gold might well trade for $1,500 an ounce, but in the ground, just like you'd have money in the bank over there, I can't get it out for now, but it's optionality. If it's in the ground, it's worth something. Major companies typically pay $60 an ounce. And our market capitalization translated to the ounces we have in the ground right now is 20. And that's the value side of the equation.
All right, it's quite a story, and for those of you who are listening for the first time, and those who have even heard before who may not recall, is that there are a number of elements here that lead up to a potential huge success story here. This is already successful in terms of one man's definition. I just want to choose words carefully here so that I don't misrepresent this company nor any other publicly traded company. But one of the big stories is Chile is one of the leading areas of the world producing, I think you said, about a quarter of the world's copper. And you've got not only a huge gold story here, but a huge copper story with several of the really big companies in the industry who are in this area.
Yes, certainly in the copper business, and you're very right, almost half of the value. When I say we have 21 million ounces of gold, there's also over 5 billion pounds of copper. You cannot find gold in Chile without finding copper, or you can't find copper without finding some gold. That's just the way the country's built. That is a fact. Where we are, we're the only, I think there's only 2 junior companies, and if I mean a junior company meaning a company with a market cap of less than $1 billion, there's only 2 junior companies in this whole region of Chile. It's dominated by the big companies. The big companies operating there go from the names of Rio Tinto to Barrick Mining to Gold Corp to Mitsui. It's the big names in the business are there to develop these large deposits. Like I said, there's only 2 of us juniors that have managed to hold it together as juniors to continue to advance their projects ahead of an ultimate transaction. And that transaction, Stu, we're looking at like the first quarter of next year. We're ready to go in terms of, okay, what kind of deal will we do with a major?
The company is Exeter Resource Corporation. And for those who say maybe at times I spit it out too quickly, especially if you're driving, don't get into an accident on this. And if you are driving and you can't remember, my listening audience, you know where to reach me, Stu at StuTaylor.com. I'll provide you with all the information, but I will not answer any questions. That's not my role. I will turn you over to Yale and his most competent management team to do that, but I'll steer you right to them. It's ExeterResource.com, publicly traded. And for the majority of the audience listening, you can check on the Amex at XRA is the symbol. It's quite a story. Yale Simpson, the chairman, is joining us, and perhaps you can partially answer the question. And if you need beyond the break to answer this question before we move on, go right ahead. But basically, what are you doing? What are you doing today that you haven't talked about?
22,000 man-hours of engineering using one of the big engineering firms in the U.S., Jacobs Engineering, to do the pre-feasibility study to demonstrate the economics of developing and mining the deposit. 22,000 man-hours that we're funded for right now.
Are any problems in terms of equipment or infrastructure, access to the roads, labor?
It's a massive blend of infrastructure, labor, as you put. It's the same. Let's say you're going to build a real estate development. Think of the engineering, all the permitting, all of the pieces that come together. It's no different when you look at building a big mine. But we did put out a press release a week or so ago, and we should get to talking about that.
Well, go ahead. We got about a minute and a half. Why don't you start, and we'll pick that up after a break if we need to.
The deposit called Caspinche has got a gold deposit sitting on top of a gold-copper deposit. There's actually 2. And we just completed a study, or Jacobs Engineering did, and came up with a value of just over $330 million on a discounted cash flow model for simply developing the top 10% of the deposit. That was hugely gratifying for the company because it was the first economic analysis we'd ever done to say, can this project make money? So now the work we're doing is on the gold copper deposit underneath the upper zone to say, well, if it's 330 million on the upper part, what is the value for the entire project? That's what's in place now.
All right, Yale Simpson is joining us, and again, if you want to reach him, any of his teams, you can certainly call. Do you have a toll-free number, or you want me to give out the 604 number? Oh, here's the toll-free: 888-688-9592. It's 888-688-9592, and get yourself a brochure. Also, get on the website and take a look at this, because it's beautifully done, and there's lots more on the site that you can see that we can't talk about here. But we'll come back and find out what future plans are and some more specifics from Yale Simpson on Exeter Resource Corporation. Here we go. Having a little fun during the break here with Yale Simpson. He is the chairman of Exeter Resource Corporation. Again, a lot of times you kind of wish that the conversation during the break it comes on air, and it doesn't. But this is really, I say potentially exciting company. I say potentially. I say everything is potential. I don't want to put myself in the position of making definitive statements that I can't back up, and Yale certainly will be exercise caution in talking about it, but it's an exciting venture. Exeter Resource Corporation, trading on the Amex. The symbol is XRA, also on the Frankfurt Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange. I want to give you the website again, because you really get a great idea of what's going on. Go to exeterresource.com, exeterresource.com. And, to give people a little bit of an appreciation, Yale, of what's going on, what does it take to get to a producing mine?
The time frames are typically 10 years. And imagine starting up a business where you pour money into it for 10 years, and then you finally get cash flow. And that's the mining business. And we made our discovery on this. It's interesting, and we probably have a bit of time here. The property where we made this discovery is in Chile. It's in the Andes Mountains. The elevation, 14,000 feet. This property, people found gold there. A company, one of the major companies in the business, found gold there 15 years ago, drilled some holes just like you would for an oil field, found some gold, not enough. Then another major company came in and joint ventured, so you now had two major companies working on it, drilled some more holes, didn't find very much. Then we came in, drilled 12 holes, nothing, and then drill hole number 13 has found 1 billion tons of gold, copper ore, and it's done by a junior company. And so the timeline to take it then forward is to drill those holes, measure the quantities of gold and copper in each hole, and then bring the engineers into it who will model what size equipment you'd need, what size trucks, how many trucks, what kind of treatment facility, who's going to buy the copper and gold, what is the specifications. Then the environmental kicks in, is to what can you mine this on an environmental, will you contaminate water supplies, where are you going to get the water? And these are these 10-year life projects. And typically if you find something really big, you sell it to a major. Just like if you're a junior oil company, you find a major oil field, you know it's going to go to a major. It's just a matter of, not about if it'll go to a major, it's purely a matter of when and for what price.
Talk about the majors, and you mentioned companies like Barrick and Goldcorp, and anybody who has any idea of the mining business, those names just stand out like, they ring a loud bell. What are these, what are the mines around you doing? What are these companies doing?
Well, there's a whole series of mines. The closest mine to us is operated by a company called Kinross Gold. They're in the top 10 gold producers in the business. They're only, in terms of, they're 10 miles away. When you're on our project, you can see theirs. You can see their trucks moving around as they mine this deposit, and I guess they've been mining it for about 10 years. They produce 250,000 ounces of gold a year, which is about $400 million worth of gold a year come out of that project. And then when you turn around and look the other way, there's a deposit about the same size of ours. It's owned by Barrick. Barrick are the biggest gold company in the world. and they're developing their project. I think it's a $5 billion development to make it, I think it'll be in the top 3 gold deposits of all time. That's right next to us. So we have a mine on the north, a developing one on the south, with us sitting in the middle working on our engineering. And in due course, you'll see us hoist up the for sale sign to enter into a transaction mode to either partner with one of these majors or sell the company.
I want to tap into your geologist's mind here about thinking about 21 million ounces of gold, how big it is, how close to a road it is, the physical dimensions, how far up, how far. Can you kind of give us a picture? Maybe I haven't phrased the question well, but I think you know where I'm going.
In terms of infrastructure, although we're at 14,000 feet, you can get in any suburban car and drive up there, park the car on the deposit. You're going up a fair ways, but once you're up there, it's pretty flat. There's many mines developed at that altitude around the world, particularly in Peru, Chile, and in that part of the world. The physical dimensions on something as large as what we have. Remember, this is the largest discovery made by the mining industry in several years. I mean, that's not me just touting something. That is a fact. The physical dimensions to put the quarry in to excavate the deposit. The quarry will measure about a mile across. It'll go up to 2/3 of a mile deep, and they'll be excavating this quarry for a period of 20 years. It's called a porphyry. It's a large, very large system. It's not a vein where like in the old days, you'd see a miner underground with a lamp with a drill. No, this is a very large scale. Like you'd see a roadside quarry outside any major city. This just takes that to another scale. That's what's being envisaged for our project, and that's what people are building in the area around us. Very remote area of Chile, no people, very little water because it's on the east side of the Atacama Desert. It's a good place for projects like this: Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, and Chile.
I just think here, I think about a book that I read, I think it was Black Gold Stranglehold, written by Jerome Corsi and Craig Smith. And the debate was whether oil is organic or inorganic in nature, whether it will continue to reproduce itself. We won't get into that debate. It's like getting into the global warming discussion. But how much gold is there? I mean, and has most of it been tapped?
Fortunately for the gold business, most of the gold that's ever been found is still either on somebody's arm or in the bank or what have you. Where, the industry, this is how strategic our discovery is. It's the biggest discovery made in the last several years. The industry mines about 77 million ounces of gold a year. Multiply that by $1,500. So 77 million ounces of gold are mined a year. And the industry spends about $4.5 billion trying to replace those ounces because every year they have to find another 77 million ounces. And we're not doing it anymore. The days of replacing those ounces are gone, and that's why, and one of the reasons why the gold price has gone from $300 an ounce in 2002 to $1,500 an ounce today. It will continue to go up simply because we're not finding it. And that's why these projects like ours, which are so large, will be increasingly valuable every day. Our current engineering is simply to a great level of confidence in what we call a pre-feasibility study, demonstrate the value of 20 million ounces or 21 million ounces of gold and 5 billion pounds of copper. What is the potential value of that for a full-scale development? If somebody said, how much would it cost to build it? $3 to $4 billion. Big projects, great upside for investors.
All right, I know if you're out there and you're listening, you're going to have to get up on the site. Just do yourself a favor and go to exeterresource.com. It's all there, all the contact information. Yale Simpson will be back to join us at a later date. Good luck, Yale. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Stu.
This is Stu Taylor. We've got more coming up right after.